Hey, how's it going guys? It's Nate here. And Skyrim is a place filled with things to do and places to visit. Dozens of settlements, dungeons, and camps dot this snow-covered region, all meant for the player to discover. But what about the places in the game that you're never meant to see? Hidden locations accessible only through the use of console commands. Some of these areas are cut content, places that were supposed to be visitable but were never fully implemented by Bethesda. Other now inaccessible areas are test cells, small rooms created by Bethesda to test out various mechanics in Skyrim during the game's development, but afterwards were never deleted. Well, today, in honor of all that, we'll be taking a look at 5 inaccessible locations in The Elder Scrolls V. Part 3. If you're interested in visiting any of these places for yourself and are on PC, in the description down below will be the necessary console commands for you to do so. But without further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting off, we have what's referred to in the console as the BYOH House Utility Cell. BYOH possibly standing for Bring Your Own Home. Added in with the Hearthfire DLC, this location seems to have acted as a test cell for Bethesda to play around with mechanics regarding the expansion. This room is one of the weirdest in the game, even considering the others on this list. Innovate that when you teleport to the location, you'll notice that there's no actual sky or ground. You know, things we've normally come to expect to see when we decide to look up or down. Instead, what we get here is an entirely black void that simply consists of a few dozen naked Nordic NPCs, all with the name Planter, standing atop a makeshift platform made up entirely of empty chests. As soon as you spawn into this room, the NPCs will begin to fall off the structure and into the abyss. You can join them for the rather humorous descent, if you so please. Now, as for whatever it is Bethesda was trying to accomplish and test out of this location is beyond me. It's possible these NPCs named Planter at one point in time had a purpose to serve, but now they simply live in darkness. Next on our list is a location that was likely supposed to be part of a Daedric quest, but didn't make the final cut. Old Blue Palace Wing 01 is a fairly large dungeon that was probably supposed to be included in the quest Into the Mind of Madness, where the player ventures into an abandoned section of Solitude's Blue Palace, only to find themselves in Sheogorath's Plane of Oblivion. Judging by the cell name and some other clues we can find within this location, it's likely that Old Blue Palace Wing 01 was originally going to be where this quest was set. But they must have changed their minds at some point very late into development. The whole area is quite large, and at first it seems reminiscent of what you would come to expect from an Imperial castle. You'll spawn into an incomplete throne room, which leads to a rather lavishly supplied kitchen, but from there, it gets a bit weird. Past the kitchen is a small room, with a single skeever inside, protected by 2 large gates. Through those is a small stretch of outside land. The sky will be as black as pitch, and the path is dotted with the corpses of various unnamed NPCs. The path leads to another castle-like building. This one has a small eating area, and notably, there's an interactive memory game you can play here called Match Cards, sitting on one of the tables that never found its way into the vanilla game. In this game, you simply match cards together, though you don't get any rewards. Past that room, there's only one left, a small area that seems to have been meant as a place for book storage or something similar. I'm very impressed by just how large and complex this area was. Its huge size, the cool interactive card game that can't be found anywhere else. Bethesda must have put considerable time into designing this whole area, before deciding to take a different approach to the quest. A theme that Creation Kit users will know to be all too common. Coming in at number 3 is another test cell, though this one has more distinguishable purposes than the first one we showed off. Warehouse Master Package is a large cube-like dungeon textured room that contains various fenced-in pens that hold bandits inside of them. The bandits are completely non-hostile, so long as you don't piss them off, and performing a variety of animations and tasks, so this cell was likely created to experiment with AI pathfinding and, well, animations. An interesting thing about these bandits in particular is that when you attempt to speak to them, they'll actually respond with dialogue other than the generic "need something" loop that happens all too often, though they're pretty inconsiderate. Our 4th spot goes to Elsewhere. That's the name Bethesda has assigned to this specific inaccessible room. Now, as you can see, if you were expecting the huge desert region of Tamriel, you're in for a bit of a disappointment. You see, Elsewhere, at least the one we're visiting right now, is what's known as a holding cell. a small room created to house NPCs and or items before the game needs to spawn them in for the player. And elsewhere is where you can find Mike the Liar when he's not being spawned in and used for a random encounter. Likewise, there's also a holding cell for many of the Thieves Guild quest items before you receive them, as well as for many of the voices behind many of the game's Daedric gods. However, I found it to be quite comedic that Bethesda decided to name the room holding the Khajiit elsewhere. And as an honorable mention, before we get to number 5, Vampire Castle Test is a huge Volokar-style castle, arguably bigger than the one we see in the Dawnguard DLC, however, considerably more dull. It's just a series of rooms that are almost as empty as Ulfric's heart. And finally, last on our list, is a room that I find to be particularly humorous. DLC 2 Reichling Furniture is a room with a similar structure to our number 3 spot, with very different contents however. The location contains a small handful of Reichlings, each performing various animations. One of them is even dancing, which is a thing I didn't even know Reichlings could do, and I don't believe happens in normal gameplay, though someone can correct me on that in the comment section. Alongside these blue goblins are 2 naked Nord NPCs, both named Test Furniture Use Idle Linked Ref NPC. Their parents weren't exactly charmers. One will be executing an animation where he picks up a large rock, and the other will randomly fall from the roof to his death shortly after spawning. It was quite the surprise looking around this room staring at the goblins, only to hear a sharp scream and watch someone fall to their death. Alas, hopefully he'll find a place in Sovngarde, even if he didn't die in the most valiant of ways. And on that note, we're going to wrap up. 5 inaccessible locations in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Which of these was your personal favorite? And what inaccessible rooms or test cells do you know of that I haven't covered in this series before? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated, and hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.